Okay, let's unpack this then. We're taking a deep dive into a resource, one specifically made for English language learners.
Right. It's called Listen and Grow, English Fluency Practice.
And what we've got to work with here are the source materials, basically a description of the program itself, and pretty detailed excerpts from the first hour, the key first hour.
Exactly. And that's our focus for this deep dive.
So our mission really is to figure out what this program's approach is. What's it actually offering someone who's maybe beginner, maybe intermediate level?
And how does it try to build those core skills? Listening, thinking in English, and importantly, speaking confidence.
Yeah, and what really jumps out, I think, from the sources is that it's all about solo practice. You're doing this alone, no partner needed.
That solo bit is definitely key. The description we have says it's structured as a 3-hour total experience.
3 hours total, okay.
And it uses what they're calling super slow, clear, natural English. It's a mix, apparently motivation, stories, Q&A, and, well, a lot of repetition.
Right, repetition seems big here. It almost sounds like it's aiming to be a shortcut, or maybe a more structured path for someone who feels a bit, overwhelmed by other methods.
That could be it, a kind of guided route. And the way this first hour is laid out, the part we have the details for, seems really crucial for building that initial base.
Okay, so let's get into that first hour then. Looking at the sources covering minutes 0 through 60, they give us a pretty clear roadmap.
Yeah, it kicks off with a welcome and warm-up. That's the first 15 minutes.
And this part, according to the materials, it isn't just language. It actually includes motivation bits and, get this, deep breathing exercises.
Interesting. Breathing right at the start.
Yeah, and it gets the listener talking almost immediately, but with really simple affirmations. Things like asking you to say out loud, "I will listen," or "I am becoming fluent."
Okay, so that inclusion of breathing and positive self-talk, it's fascinating. It suggests they're maybe trying to deal with learner anxiety, getting you relaxed and positive before the main practice.
Makes sense. And then right after that, it moves into repeating simple sentences.
Yeah.
The source lists examples like, "I am here now."
I want to speak English well.
And the really foundational one, I listen, I understand, I learn.
Focusing on that immediate, simple repetition. It feels like it's about building comfort. Just the physical act of speaking English, right?
Yeah.
And drilling basic sentence patterns, getting your mouth warmed up, sort of.
And they even have a short paragraph for you to repeat in this early stage. Let me find it here. "I learn English with my ears. Every day I hear more. I understand more. My confidence grows. English is part of me."
Repeating a slightly bigger chunk like that.
Yeah.
It starts working on rhythm, linking words maybe. Still simple, but moving past single sentences, it really hammers home that philosophy. Learn by listening, build confidence.
Okay, so you're warmed up, you've said a few things. Then the program seems to shift gears quite a bit. The next section, English for your ears, minutes 15 to 40.
And here, the emphasis shifts hard towards listening first.
Yeah.
Pure listening.
Yes, the source shows it starts with 10 simple sentences, all describing a daily routine, like I get up at 7 every morning, or I drink a cup of coffee and check my phone.
And the instruction is really specific. First time through, just listen. Focus on understanding. That's it.
Right. And only after you've just listened passively does it loop back, goes through those same 10 sentences again, but this time there's a pause and you repeat each one.
That two-step approach, it seems pretty strategic, doesn't it?
Oh, so?
Well, it lets you focus just on comprehension, right? No pressure to speak immediately.
Yeah.
Then the repetition locks it in, but you're repeating something you've already processed. So it probably feels more achievable, builds that confidence.
I see. Okay. And then still in this English for your ears part, it brings in pronunciation shadowing.
Shadowing, yeah.
This is where they really seem to drill down on mimicking the sounds. The source says they take a sentence, the host says it 3 times slow, medium, then fast, and then you repeat.
Shadowing's a powerful technique. It forces you to listen, not just to words, but to the music of the language. Rhythm, intonation, how words link up.
And hearing it at different speeds, slow, medium, fast, that must help bridge the gap between textbook English and how people actually talk.
Exactly. It helps tune your ear.
The source gives examples for the shadowing part too. Things like, I love learning English.
Also, English helps me every day. Listening makes me smarter. I feel good when I understand.
I am not afraid of mistakes.
And my English is getting better.
It's interesting, isn't it? They're weaving those positive motivational sentences right into the pronunciation practice.
Yeah, it's like a double whammy. You're practicing sounds, but also reinforcing the positive messages from the warm-up. The content itself is sort of feeding you encouragement.
Okay, so that takes us up to minute 40. The final section of this first hour, minutes 40 to 60, is called Life Stories Story Mode.
Right. This is where narrative comes into play.
The format, based on the source, is short, pretty simple stories, and each one is followed by questions for the listener to answer.
Keeps it interactive in a way.
The first story they detail is the morning walk. Super simple scene. Maria walks in the park at 6 a.m., listens to music, sees people, feels happy, buys coffee later. That's basically it.
And the questions, as listed in the source, are pure comprehension checks. Very basic, like, what time does Maria leave her house?
Where does she go?
What does she do after her walk?
And the program gives the answers straight up. 6 a.m., the park, she buys a coffee.
Yeah, it's not asking for deep analysis or anything. It's just, did you catch that specific bit of info? Can you recall it and say it?
Exactly. It feels designed for achievable wins. You understand, you answer simply, builds confidence again.
Minimal output required, based directly on the input you just heard.
Then there's a second story mentioned, a new friend, about Alex moving to a new city, a bit nervous at work, meets Sophie, they have lunch, become friends.
And they get coffee and talk every Friday.
Right. And again, the questions are basic recall, just like the first story. Where did Alex go? A new city. Who said hello to him? Sophie.
What do they do every Friday? Get coffee and talk. Same pattern.
So this last section, it seems like it's consolidating things, listening to a slightly long bit of audio, then very guided speaking practice with those simple Q&As.
Definitely. Looking at hour one overall,
wait.
based on what these sources describe, it's a very deliberate progression, isn't it?
Yeah, step by step.
Starts with mindset, simple repetition, moves to focused listening, then mimicking speech sounds, and ends with understanding short stories and giving basic answers. It's a foundation built purely on audio input and that kind of guided solo output.
And the source material does mention, just briefly, that hour two then goes into more complex stuff. Real-life conversations, describing things, role-playing like at a bank or airport.
So hour one really is laying that absolute ground floor.
Building the muscle memory, maybe, for listening and the basic mechanics of speaking before tackling more dynamic language.
Even if that more dynamic practice is still, initially at least, done solo.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? This deep dive into just the first hour of Listen and Grow reveals a program that's really betting big on repetition, on listening first.
On simple comprehension checks and building up confidence through these very achievable solo tasks. That solo practice idea is baked right into how it starts.
Which leads to, I think, an important question for you to consider. If the ultimate goal is, real conversation, fluent interaction in unpredictable situations.
How effective is starting with such a heavy focus on solo listening, repetition, and these scripted Q&As? How does that prepare you compared to, say, methods that try to get you into more interactive, maybe even spontaneous practice with other people much earlier on? Something to mull over.
All right, let's dive into these sources you sent over. They're all about remembering English vocabulary more easily, right?
That's the focus, yeah. It's like getting an inside look at a specific program designed to help with exactly that.
And it seems like the core idea is to show why the typical ways we learn words often don't stick.
Exactly. And what some simpler but actually more powerful techniques look like instead. Based on this material, anyway.
Yeah, and that promise they mentioned is really interesting. It's not about being a language whiz or studying for hours.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They claim the secret is, well, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Listen a lot, repeat words out loud, and kind of feel them.
Feel them, okay.
Yeah, connect with the meaning emotionally. It shifts things away from just, like, academic memorization.
Towards something more natural, maybe? Like how you pick up words without thinking too much?
Sort of, yeah. More intuitive.
Yeah.
Which ties into why people forget words in the first place.
Right. The sources hit that directly. You don't hear a word enough, you don't say it yourself, you never use it.
And poof, it's gone.
So this deep dive is about unpacking their solution to that specific problem.
Precisely. The material lays out why we forget. Not enough listening, no speaking practice, no real-world use.
Okay, so that's the problem laid bare. What's the fix, according to these sources? They have, 5 key rules?
Yeah, 5 rules that really challenge the old school approach.
Let's get into them. Rule number 1 is, don't memorize, connect. Okay, that sounds radical.
It kind of is. We're always told, link Apple to Seb or whatever the word is in your language.
Right, direct translation, flashcard.
This is, forget that. Don't link the English word to another word, link it to the actual thing.
So instead of Apple equals Seb, it's Apple equals, that red thing I eat.
Exactly. Connect Apple, the sound, to the image, the taste, the experience. The source gives examples like, I eat an apple every morning, or I like apples, they're sweet. You're using it immediately in a mini context.
You're building a direct pathway in your brain, bypassing the translation step. Makes sense.
Okay.
Rule 2.
Rule 2 builds on this connection. It's repeat slowly with emotion.
Slowly. And with emotion. Why the emotion part?
Well, the source argues that our brains latch onto things better when there's emotion involved, plus sound, plus rhythm.
Ah, okay. So just repeating excited, excited, excited flatly doesn't cut it.
Probably not as effectively, no. The idea is to really feel it. So you'd say, I feel excited, or wow, I'm so excited for the party.
You're sort of performing the word.
In a way, yes. And saying it slowly gives your brain time to process the sound, the meaning, the feeling all together. It makes the connection stronger.
Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. Connect conceptually, then repeat with feeling. What's rule 3?
Rule 3 tackles a big frustration.
Yeah.
Knowing words, but not being able to string them together. It's learn in phrases, not single words.
Oh, definitely felt that one. You learn run, but how do you actually use it?
Right. Language isn't just isolated words, it's chunks. So instead of just run, the source says learn go for a run to catch the bus, run late.
Ah, so you're learning usable blocks of language.
Exactly. Like prefabricated pieces you can plug right into a conversation. The examples are things like, I go for a run every morning, or I had to run to catch the train.
Or, sorry, I'm running late. Much more practical.
Totally. Ready to use phrases.
Okay. Connect, repeat with feeling, use phrases. Rule 4. Use the word 5 times. Is 5 a magic number, or?
Maybe not magic, but it's a concrete goal. It forces immediate active use. When you learn a new word or phrase, don't just note it down.
You have to actually say it.
Say it 5 different ways, according to this method. So if you learn delicious...
I'd have to say, like, this soup is delicious. What a delicious smell. I want something delicious. That was a delicious meal. Delicious. Something like that.
That's the idea. You're actively retrieving and using the word right away in slightly different contexts. It helps lock it in much better than passive review.
Quick activation. Okay. And the last one, rule 5.
Rule 5 is hear the word often in different stories. This is more about the long game.
Makes sense. Memory needs reinforcement over time.
Exactly. And our brains seem to respond well to repetition within meaningful context, like stories or conversations, not just random drills.
So you need repeated exposure, but in varied ways.
Yeah, encountering the word naturally again and again. The source mentions their program is designed to do this, weaving words back into different examples and narratives.
So it feels less like studying and more like just encountering the language.
That seems to be the goal. Natural, spaced repetition in context.
Okay, this all leads nicely into the practical side. They describe the vocabulary practice itself. They have a method, right?
Yeah, a simple loop. Hear the word, hear it in a sentence, you repeat it out loud, and then often you're prompted to use it yourself somehow.
And they focus on really useful types of words, not just random vocabulary lists.
Definitely. High frequency, everyday words, they group them into categories.
Like daily action words, the absolute basics.
Yep, stuff like wake up, I wake up at 7.
Yeah.
Or get dressed, I get dressed quickly. Brush my teeth, go to work, come home, cook dinner, go to bed, the rhythm of the day.
If you nail those, you can describe your basic routine. Then feeling words.
Super important for connection. Words like tired, I feel tired today. Happy, learning English makes me happy. Hungry, excited, angry. Expressing your internal state.
Can't have a real conversation without those. And placing things in time words.
Essential anchors. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Simple but crucial. Now, later. You need these to structure narratives.
Right. I went shopping yesterday. I'll call you tomorrow. And where things happen, place words.
Also fundamental. Home, office, supermarket, park, school, locating actions and events. I'm at home. Let's go to the park.
And to ask questions, obviously, you need question words.
The tools for curiosity. What, where, when, why, how. The building blocks of interaction. What time is it? Where are you?
And finally, they highlight power verbs. What falls into that category?
These are verbs that express core intentions, states, and thoughts. Things like want, I want to improve. Like, I like listening. I need practice. Also, know and think.
I know the answer. I think you're right. Yeah, those are everywhere.
Absolutely. They drive a huge amount of communication.
So the overall message from the source seems to be, focus on these essential word types, apply those 5 rules, consistently connect, repeat with emotion, use phrases, use it 5 times, hear it often.
And you move beyond just knowing words to actually using them confidently. You build that long-term usable vocabulary.
It's about making them automatic, part of your active language.
Exactly. Through engagement that feels more natural than grinding through lists.
So, recapping the big ideas from this deep dive, forget rote memorization. Link words to real things, to feelings.
Repeat them slowly with
Yeah.
that emotion. Learn them in useful phrases.
Actively use them right away, maybe
Yeah.
5 times, and get lots of exposure over time in different contexts.
They sound simple, but it's quite a different mindset, isn't it?
It really is. So for you listening, the question is, how can you integrate these ideas? Maybe focusing more on listening, maybe actually repeating things out loud with feeling, even if it feels a bit strange at first.
Or consciously trying to make a few sentences with a new word right after you learn it.
And it leaves us with that final thought provoked by the source material. If this approach, listening, repeating, feeling, context, is really key.
Does it mean language learning doesn't have to be this huge, difficult struggle we often make it out to be?
Yeah, maybe our brains are actually wired for this more natural process more than we give them credit for. What could change for you if you leaned into that, if you trusted that process of connecting and using language in context?
Definitely something to chew on as you continue your English journey.